anywhere you go on the continent, cost of living has gone up.
Hello, wherever you are. Welcome you to another edition of Issues That Matter. This week, the issues are so important. We're going straight to the topic. USAID, US President has threatened to withdraw funding for USAID. As you know, the Gambia and so many African countries are highly dependent on this USAID aid to, accelerate some of our development projects. In fact, a prominent US-based lawyer and human rights activist, has gone as far as saying that if that is really successful, that is, if USAID really withdraws from the Gambia or other African countries, for the Gambia, the threat by ECOWAS to prosecute former President Yahya Jammeh is really going to be hampered. So this is really a pity, which means that the Gambia, like other African countries, are highly dependent on development aid from the West. On this edition of this program, we are talking to this professor about coups in Africa and some other emerging geopolitical issues. We began our interview with the military rulers in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, who have gone their own ways. This after ECOWAS even threatened to intervene militarily in Niger if Niger rulers refused to give up power. This did not in any way move the military rulers. But what they did is not just a mere political separation, but a big statement.
And that's part of the problem. Nevertheless, I think we have to avoid the repeat of history.
And what is that?
We have to be very careful. Whatever bilateral or multilateral agreements we are going to have, we need to be nationalistic. We need to look at what our benefits are in that. So patriotism, I think love for country. And when we say love for country, not just for your own opportunities to exploit it but for your own people.
How did Africa get here as far as coups are concerned?
One thing though, if you look at the history of coups in the continent, you have to go back to the late 60s and the early 70s. And, new nation states were already formed. There were major political sea change at the global level because of decolonization and, the end of the European empires across the African continent. But shortly thereafter, these new nation states had to confront a major issue that everybody else confronted, but they were in a more difficult position to deal with those changes. And what was that? The 1973 oil crisis.
What's the way forward? Should the continent continue to listen to Western preachers telling us what to do?
Talk about it. Not these Europeans who for long had no disregard for African rights and their freedoms. And I'm not just talking about this in rhetorical ways. Executions, banishment, imprisonment, outright violations of people's fundamental rights. And that was within living memory. There were many Africans who lived through the colonial period. The colonial period just ended not long ago, just a few years before I was born. So all of my elder brothers remember the colonial period.